Every Thursday, I say to myself, how is it Thursday again? For some reason, my body clock freaks out on Thursdays.
Ugh, Groundhog Day. I had to wait an hour for an alleged epic breakfast sandwich. So to kill some time, I ate a donut and a half a scone. And when I finally got this so-called epic sandwich, I wasn't hungry anymore.
Oh, girl, I've been there. My eyes were bigger than my stomach last night for ramen. But now I have cold ramen for lunch today, sitting in the fridge, and I consider that a win.
Total score. In the last 29 days, I have been on 7 planes, countless trains, buses, and taxis, 1 Ferris wheel, and have slept on 6 beds and 1 couch. Look out, California, I'm coming in hot.
You are, girl. Have such a good day. Oh, hi, world. Welcome back to Have Such a Good Day, the show that wants you to do just that. Episode 200.
201. Hello and welcome to Have Such a Good Day, the show that unpacks the absurdity of everyday life for your entertainment. Peace and love. Peace and love out there. How y'all doing?
Peace and love indeed, Heather Frank. How's everybody? What's the haps, as the kids say?
We're probably going to tap into some of the life's cruel ironies and some of the happier moments. So please continue to tune in to this channel, wherever you may be tuning in. But we're excited to have an hour of fun with y'all.
KZST on your dial.
Sarah Lane, it must be hella dry out there. I'm in humid upstate New York. It's hot, but I heard it's getting up into the hundreds by you next week.
Oh gosh, I haven't even looked at next week. We
horrible.
got through a rather brutal weekend. We're recording this midweek. The temperatures are in the high 70s today. So, I mean, talk about considering something a win. That's a win.
Yeah, that's not bad.
But it's been hot. Hot to the point where, you sort of shut the house down around 9 a.m. You open it all up, try to get some air, and then you shut the whole thing down, run the AC, which I hate.
I hate AC.
Listen, I am happy to have it. Could be a lot worse, but sitting inside, not being outside because it's miserable, which, humid or not, well, humidity is actually worse, but if even dry heat, if something's real hot, I mean, you can't go outside. I also have a dog who can't go outside.
Yeah.
So yesterday we kind of between, about 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., we just sat inside waiting for the temps to drop. So
yeah, I mean, there's nothing like opening
super
a
fun
window and getting fresh air. There's something about the AC that it's just too cold, and then you have to put a sweater on, but it's hot outside, and it's sort of counterintuitive. And I realize how much I have bitched about the weather where I live in Northern California, because it can get cold and it can take a while for the seasons to change to being warm. And it's been warm since I left. In fact, it feels like a very cruel irony, because I was bitching so much about the cold weather in June, the June gloom, and it's been beautiful since I've been gone. But I now realize I do live in a good place, especially in terms of climate change and whatnot. It's nice to be able to open a window and not need AC. So that's a win in my book, Sarah Lane.
100%. Yeah. It's been okay. It just is what it is. It's summer. It's summer, and every year I kind of go, how did I do this last year? Because I never think, unless like something catastrophic happened, I never look back on a hot summer from yesteryear and think, oh God, I was so miserable. I'm like, oh, summer.
No,
yay.
you don't.
Especially when it's sort of,
definitely
winter and kind of cold and rainy, and you go, oh, it'll be summer soon enough. And then summer comes and I go, oh man, I prefer winter, which is not actually true. I do prefer summer.
You can't win.
If I got to choose one, that's what I'm choosing. But it's, I don't like sweating. I like sweating if I'm exercising. If I am not exercising and I'm sweating, I'm too hot.
Yes. Yeah, totally. It's funny. We've been going around in circles, me and my travel buddy, about this, because we're like, yeah, it's like we're looking for like some perfect ideal like Shangri-La with like the perfect weather and the perfect everything. It's like everything has its trade-offs. Everything. And yeah, I do the same thing. I'm like, I'm so tired of the winter, but then I don't want it to be too hot. I don't want to be sweating. I don't want AC. We are an interesting species in that way. We can't quite wrap our heads around the fact that we can't have it all.
I know, and I think
amusing.
that's sort of the reason that you get so many people just being like, I'm unsatisfied. And then
Yes,
you go,
totally.
but look at your life. You have a
I
great life, and it's
know.
like, but I'm unsatisfied.
It's the human condition, totally. Because and I this is a conversation I had with my travel partner just yesterday, that we both tend to remind each other how good each other's lives are because it's an objective point of view. Because I think when you're immersed in your own subjective life, you can't totally see it like in a kind of a 360-degree point of view. But then you get someone to say something that really reinforces that like you have it pretty good. Yeah, nothing's perfect. We know this. I mean, we're saying it right now, yet we can't seem to embody it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a funny
This
thing.
this is gonna sound very 80s of me, but it reminds me of a conversation from the movie The Breakfast Club, one of
Oh,
my
funny.
favorite movies ever.
Oh
Although
yeah.
sort of doesn't age well in certain things. You know, there's certain terms that are kind of off the table. If you happen to watch the movie today, you'd be like, "Oh God, you're not supposed to say things like that." But at one point, you know, after they like all, sorry, spoiler from 1984, they're all, you know, they've smoked weed and they're all just sort of sitting there in the library where they have detention, and Ali Sheedy's character, Allison, says that her home life is unsatisfying.
Oh, I remember that.
And like, and the rest of them look at her and go like, well, everybody's home life is unsatisfied, or we would just live with our parents forever. And I remember, because when I saw the movie, I was a little kid,
Yeah.
you know, and I remember just being like, oh yeah, I guess it's like never that great. There's always a
Yeah.
problem.
It's all relative. Grass is always greener. I mean, it's this human condition thing. Speaking of human condition, Sarah, I think
Yeah.
it's hilarious pre-show. Sarah's wearing an interesting T-shirt.
Yeah.
I've seen this T-shirt before. It's an old T-shirt. I remember her wearing it many years ago, and it
No,
has.
Heather, you don't. I only
I
got this like
don't?
2 years ago.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking about the one. There was one that you had that was about parking and like a sandwich or something. Like you
Oh, have Carwell
other.
Park? I bought that in
Yeah.
Mexico City. You were with me.
Yeah, okay, that's the one I'm thinking of. It kind of reminds me of this. So, she's wearing a T-shirt. It has a burger on it, and then what's in the middle? Oh, a
Noodles.
noodle, like kind of ramen noodles, and then a high five hand.
It's those
And I asked Sarah, I'm
five.
like, what does that mean? And she said, I don't know.
I don't.
But
I
she's
don't
wearing
know.
the shirt.
I don't know. This is a DTNS thing, Daily Tech News Show. For anybody who
got
doesn't
it.
listen to that, I know there's some crossover with some of the people who listen to this show. This is like some sort of DTNS joke that I either never was around for or I just don't remember.
I see.
Either are equally probable, plausible. Yeah, no, it's my mom actually asked me this the other day. She's like, "What's Burger Noodle 5?" And she was like all excited for the story, and I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know what it is."
Hey, y'all, if any of y'all listeners out there know what it means, let us know. Email us at hi@havesuchagoodday.com.
Indeed.
You will get a prize. I don't know what that prize will be, but it might be just a shout out on the show. So, Sarah, what else is going on in your neck of the woods?
How have things been? Things have been okay. I'm not gonna say that they've been stellar. I think we can still be leading up to stellar. I would say we're cruising right along. Did have a funny thing last night. I mentioned that I had
Okay.
ramen. I met some
Yeah.
friends down in an area of town that, you know, has a few restaurants. Not that far from where I am, but I mean, not walkable. I had to, you know, get in my car, but like not even a 10-minute drive. It was
Oh,
pretty
wow.
close. So we have dinner, you know, at regular old dinner times. And I get in my car, and this particular restaurant is it's a cluster of restaurants. So that, there's lights and, sidewalks and lampposts and, regular stuff. It's not like some deserted area when I get in my car later. But there's a couple, an older couple, and they're sort of walking through this it's sort of a square type thing. And as I'm reversing, they're kind of like motioning at me, where I'm like, oh God, I don't have any money. Like, I don't know what's going on, what's happening here. And I rolled down my window a little bit, and I'm like, hi, can I help you? And they go, your lights, your headlights, they're out. And I go, they are? And so my car is it's a bit of a mystery to me sometimes. So my car recently went through a huge like auto body detailing thing. I had there was some pretty extensive damage to my right front bumper that went on and on. I finally got it fixed recently. Looks great now. I mean, I feel like I have a new car again. But it's possible that during that some things got weird. My car is, it's a it's a extensive computer, really.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, everybody's car is an extensive computer these days. But my car has, this is not like a brand new car, and it's not like a Bentley or anything. It's a Volvo. But, it has
Could
like
you imagine if you had a Bentley?
I
That seems
can't.
so
No.
over the top.
It's just, that's not for me. Not for
No,
me. Even if I could
definitely
afford
not.
it, I'm not a
No.
Bentley person. But I am a Volvo person. And this particular car has what they call a technology package. In anybody who's familiar with Volvos or BMWs or whatever, it's like you either get like sort of like stock model, and then you can build up the cool stuff. So this has like the cool tech stuff, but a lot of the tech stuff I've noticed over the years is a little hit and miss. It's always telling me that my tire pressure is low, but then like I press a button and something happens and magically my tire pressure isn't low anymore. A lot of things I don't understand about vehicles in general. So this is partly a Sarah problem. Anyway, so they go, your headlights are out, and I'm sort of like, what? Like I really just, I'm done with the day at this point. I've had dinner, saw my friends. I want to go back home. I want to go to bed. So I go, all right, what do I do? Do I call AAA? AAA is an insurance company. I have roadside assistance. But I'm like, what are they going to do? They're going to tow me. They're not going to fix my headlights. That's something that I have to like take it into the Volvo dealership for, or something like that. So I just drive home without my headlights on.
Oh,
now,
no.
you
How
might
long
say
it was 10 minutes or?
Not even.
Okay, all right.
And it's all very well lit. You might say, like, that's crazy. If I still lived at my old house in the Forestville, there is no way I could have done this because it's like dark and scary and windy. No way. Couldn't be done. This was like, I'm in like a well lit city grid. So it actually the whole time, like I kept like trying to see like, are my headlights, can I see them reflected back, on the car in front of me? It's like, no, they were out, but I was okay. And I got home and now it's just one more thing I have to deal with, Heather.
Oh, it's actually funny that you bring up a car situation because while I'm out here trying to wrap up this big trip and get home tonight, it's going to be a long day. When I drove home, I had to drive like 4.5 hours to get to my friend's house near you in your neck of the woods to fly out of San Francisco. It was a whole thing. So I'm bookended by a pretty long drive on either side. Wednesday, hopefully tomorrow, if all goes well, I'm driving home. But when I drove down, what they call, apparently this is a new term for me, but it's called a ghost rock, hit my windshield. Came out of nowhere. A lot of times, like maybe a big rig is in front of you and a rock flies off of it. I get that. But this rock literally came out of nowhere. So they call it a ghost rock. It hit the edge of my windshield on my way down, the very beginning of my trip. And it cracked, it was a kind of a big rock. And so it made a pretty big crack, but it only went a few inches. So I like put some Band-Aids on it just to, and then I saw you for dinner and I showed you the crack. So
Right.
Over the last month.
It wasn't a huge deal when I saw it. I mean, it was annoying, but like, it wasn't like the windshield was
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that
in
bad.
tatters.
Apparently, and it might be because of the heat. I don't know. My car's been sitting in Santa Rosa for a month, and the person who is sort of watching over it, sent me a picture the other day, and it's cracked all the way across in many streams. So it's like it's pretty bad. So I was like, oh great. So I got to coordinate getting that done. Thankfully, my friend is helping me out this morning to get that done at the at the dealership, and it's a whole thing with AAA. I have to pay out of pocket. I have to pay out of pocket $1,000 for a ghost rock, a rock that decided to smash my window, and I'm out $1,000. Huge bummer, but shit happens, and we all know this. Such is life. But it's kind of a bummer. I just want to be able to get home, So yeah, hopefully all goes well today, and I can drive home and fall down on my bed and sleep for 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh, I want this for you. The cracked windshield. I had leased a car. This is years ago, 10 years ago almost, or maybe about 10 actually. Now that I think about it, I had it was my car, but it was a lease. It was not going to be my car forever, and it was the same thing. I was on the freeway. Some kind of rock, got kicked up. Maybe there was a truck in front of me. I never saw like where it came from. It just came out of nowhere and kind of dinged my windshield. It started with a little thing where I'm like, oh man, they really got the glass. And then over time, because I just never got it fixed, it became this thing that kind of went like way over like through the passenger side.
Oh yeah.
It started kind of like right at the driver, and then it just went to the right. So anytime anybody would be a passenger in my car, they'd be like, whoa, this crack. And I'm like, I know, but it's easy for me to ignore because my sight is not obstructed.
Yes,
it just looks bad, but it's not like dangerous.
See,
so
mine
finally,
was on the driver's side, so it's like kind of dangerous.
So it's both. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, you don't want anything to be obstructed when you're driving. But when I turned my car back in at the end of the lease, I remember being like, well, yeah. I mean, obviously, this is a thing I have to deal with. It was. You mentioned $1,000. Mine was, I don't remember what it was, but it was more than that. And the leasing company was, because I got on the phone with somebody where I'm like, well, this is crazy. I should be able to, at least let me just fix it myself and not pay you, what you're asking. But having done a little due diligence around replacing a windshield, which you have to do, you have to replace the whole thing, of course, is not cheap.
No, it's not. I mean, it's going to be over $2,000. So I was like on the phone with AAA yesterday, and I was in like the store, and it's just the whole thing. But you can't get all the fun with no hitting no problems. It's just like you can't go away for a month unscathed. I mean, stuff is going to happen whether you like it or not.
Yep.
And that's that. But yeah, so yeah, we're in upstate New York. This is just the final leg of our trip, and we're with some friends. It's been great. We had kind of a nice soft landing. We have two mutual friends here. We stayed on one side of the river for the first 2 nights. Very different. And now we're on the other side of the river. It's a lot more funky, and it's been an interesting adventure.
You're talking about the Hudson River.
I'm talking about the Hudson, upstate New York. And I have never been up here. I
haven't either.
I spent a lot of time in New York City, but never really got out. And it's cool because I think both me and my travel partner were sort of interested in doing or getting like the lay of the land because we're both such California girls. We wanted to know what is so great about upstate New York. A lot of people from the city kind of flock out here. And we've heard great things. We love the idea of it being like very country, but it's only a few hours train ride to a big metropolitan area.
Totally.
And so, yeah, it's been a really, really fun exploration. We're only here for like 3 days, so it's like we're getting like a really small slice, but what we've seen and what we've done has been really lovely. And I think what, we kind of want in a way to get calibration on where we live, because we're, we're both feeling like, gosh, is California the end all be all? We're worried about fires. I'm worried about all the things that happen with insurance that are going to happen in the coming years because of the way California is with, fires and whatnot. Y'all probably know about this, but if you don't, in a nutshell, it's just that because of climate change and all the fires we've had in California, a lot of insurance carriers are dropping people for various, really some silly reasons. But anything that could potentially trigger a fire is making all
Right.
these insurance companies freak out. So it's making owning property in California really difficult. So we just kind of thought, gosh, wouldn't it be great to have a little pied a terre or a place we could rent out somewhere else that's cool and different, some kind of creative project, something that could be a good investment. We haven't had a chance to really like actually get a look at places really where this is a very like soft start. But we've been sort of talking about what the possibilities are. We have some friends who have some businesses here, and it's been an interesting kind of comparison, because I live in the country, as you know, it's very country, but like this feels way more country than I expected. I thought it would feel a little bit more
Suburban, maybe.
maybe, and more like, I guess, more coffee shops, more restaurants, more of that culture. But there's like these really small towns that have like nothing, where it's like a fire station and not even a post office and like maybe a tiny cafe if you're lucky. But a lot of these places are very tiny and they're extremely, country, quiet. There's not a lot of people walking around. So that part has been a little bit surprising for me. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I guess they're all in the city.
yeah, exactly. And I think, it's funny how you kind of talking about this sort of a similar concept as earlier in the show, just this sort of human condition, like this fantasy versus reality. Like in your head, you have this fantasy bubble of like where this perfect place can be. Could I level up from where I am in California? Is there a place that I'm missing out on? Maybe it's better on the East Coast. Here are the things that could be better. But then you have to grapple with like the hardcore winters, the snow. There's always going to be something. There's tornadoes here now. We were supposed to have a tornado yesterday. There was actually kind of a big storm. So it sort of seemed like the perfect spot in terms of proximity to like a big city, but also peaceful. Where I live, I'm like 5 hours from a big city. That's quite far. But you really have to weigh that like fantasy versus reality, because there's always going to be these things that aren't ideal in a place. You're never going to find this like perfect place on a beautiful cloud with rainbows and puppy dogs and all that, even though
Right.
maybe
I
that's
know.
what
That
you
does
see
sound
in your
fun.
head. But, along this trip, it's been interesting. Speaking of California and being a California girl, I will say it's been a little bit of a peeve of mine, because when I was in Paris, I know a lot of French. My speaking isn't perfect because I don't speak a lot, but when I was there, I was speaking. I don't have the best accent. I could work on that. I probably sound very American when I speak French. And within milliseconds, people pegged me as an American. Like before I even opened my mouth, it was like my presence, my face. I even talked to some Parisians about it, like even like shopkeepers and stuff. And they said it's like this, Californians are very, they have a smile on their face. They have a sunshine. They bring in the sunshine. They have a happy demeanor, and I thought that was so interesting. I'm like,
We're good at faking it then.
yeah, maybe we're good at faking it, but I was a little bit, I kind of took it in a way that I'm like, could I get the California out of me, this California girl? Because even walking around upstate New York, we feel very Cali. I feel like we're not in a good way. We're kind of just like stick out like sore thumbs kind of thing, and I don't want to. And it's kind of funny. It's like, can I get rid of that vibe ever? I wonder. And I thought I would just pose that question to you, Sarah, and any of y'all listening out there. I don't know if we have any Cali listeners, any native Californians.
I think there's probably somebody.
Yeah, I
In
would
fact,
guess.
there's a Humboldt County person who's in our
Oh, that's
Discord.
right. We do. Yes.
I don't want to like,
100%.
I
We don't want to blow up her spot.
exactly, they
But
can
we
just
tight.
hang out. Yeah, I don't know. I know what you mean. There is there is that thing when you talk about being in Paris. I mean, this could happen wherever.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in
Happened in
lots of
Spain
places.
too, actually.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's sort of like I can almost always, you know, I live in a part of California that gets a lot of tourists, and I can tell who's European. And it's not like, oh, it's
That's
a
true.
specific shoe. I mean, sometimes it's kind of a shoe, but it's like it's not anything specific. It just we can kind of smell each other out.
I agree.
In a
No,
weird
you're
way.
right.
And yeah, I know that feeling of being like, yeah, I am clearly not from around here. I don't know. I also, there are things that some people like, and I say half jokingly, like, I'm a hippie, because I kind of am, but it's also like my way of just being like, I'm just from California. You know, like California people, I don't want to say like, oh, we're insular, we don't know anything about what's going on, but it's such a big state, and there's so much variety, and there's so much kind of like, I don't know, like
It's a big state.
larger than life versions of people
No, it's
that
true.
come from other places to sort of be someone else. I don't know. I'm not even talking about like, you know, Hollywood, but there is some of that too. It's
Oh, for
like
sure.
you just get there's a certain kind of person, and sometimes I go, yeah, I'm not built for this other thing. Not that I wouldn't, you know, settle upstate in New York
Yeah.
at some point. Maybe
Yeah.
I will. Maybe I
think you
will.
would
But
like it.
I know that I would be a fish out of water, at least at first.
Oh, absolutely. Like, yeah, I don't feel at home here. It's very foreign to me. I think that I could feel at home here. I saw some fireflies last night. That was really magical. And I love the cicadas. Like, I love that kind of like some of the sounds are just like really neat because I don't hear these things back in Cali. I hear other wonderful things like frogs and that
The
kind
whole
of thing. but
even calling it Cali thing, Heather. You've been away too long.
I've been away way too long. I mean,
You
no,
only say
seriously.
that if you're not from Cali.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of ready for the re-entry. I mean, oh gosh, sorry about that.
Yeah, just you know, let it all burn down. Why don't you?
I'm recording at a friend's house, and both of my friends are squirreled away in other rooms to let me record. And I told him, I'm like, you can cruise around. Come in the kitchen. I'm in the kitchen right now. I said, don't worry, like live your life. You know, the viewers know that I'm on the road, so. It's a slightly different situation, but I will be back at my desk for next week's episode, so that'll be kind
How
of
about
fun.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. 202 Palindrome.
Woo!
Woo woo. Well, so I had a funny situation. Well, funny. It was funny to me, but also a little disturbing. So I told you I've been going to this gym, which thankfully I don't go at night, so I don't need my fucking headlights on. But it's also, I mean, technically walkable, but a very short drive otherwise. So I've been driving. Anyway, what I do is when I'm going to go to the gym, I start listening to whatever podcast that I kind of want to have going on in the background the whole time. You know, any podcast that's about an hour is perfect.
Yeah.
You know, I get there and then I've got the better part of an hour at the gym to like do my thing. And as they're winding up the podcast, I kind of wind up. It
Totally.
works nicely for me. I could do that with music, but there's something about a story, you know, or, you know,
I'm with you. I feel the same
something about
way.
the spoken word that I'm just into,
Same.
as far as just kind of escaping my mind.
Yep.
So I listened to this podcast called Watch What Crappens, which is a play on
never heard of it.
Watch What Happens, which is a Bravo thing. Heather, you would not like this podcast.
It's about reality
because
shows.
It's about reality shows on Bravo specifically.
Wow.
Because Watch What Happens is Bravo's it's its tag. So Watch What Crappens is like it's two guys who make fun of all things Bravo.
Andy Cohen, or no? It's
It's not Andy Cohen.
Okay.
It's just they're not affiliated with
Got it.
Bravo. So, but it's extremely funny, but it's extremely specific. You know, like if you don't watch the shows and you don't know the characters, you wouldn't get a lot out of this program, this podcast. But I know Bravo so well that like, and I know everybody that they're talking about. I mean, there's certain things like I don't watch the show Below Deck. It's about people who live on a boat and, you know, are yacht employees.
Yeah.
I don't watch that. So I skip those episodes. But anything that I do watch, I don't actually even have to watch the episode first because all they do is they go through the episode like line by line almost, but then they're just making fun of everybody. And it's hysterical. But you have to know, you have to know the material.
Yeah,
anyway,
that makes sense.
So, and they're usually about an hour kind of thing. Very, very funny. And so I go into the gym and it's kind of busy. And so I'm on the bike and there's someone on my left and someone on my right. And you know how there was this trend for a while? I mean, Heather, I don't know how much you've been in gyms lately, but there was a trend for a few years where like all of the, not Nautilus machines, but I guess Nautilus machines, the cardio machines, treadmill, elliptical, or like Stairmaster, they all had like little individual TVs on them, and then you have certain channels to pick from, and like you like plug in your headset to listen to, whatever station you've chosen. And that was like a trend for a while. And now we've all just like leapfrogged. So like everybody's got wireless headphones. Nobody has wired headphones anymore, at least not at the gym I go to. And, they have TVs that are like hanging from the ceiling. So they're in front of you. And there's like an app where you can like download the app and then whatever the TV has, you get the audio kind of thing. Or you just listen to whatever you want. Right?
Yeah.
Lots more choice these days. Right. So that's kind of how gyms are now. And so here I am listening to an episode of Watch What Crappens, and these guys are just on fire. They're being really funny, and I'm laughing. But I'm also kind of looking up at the TVs because I'm just like trying to look at something, you know what I mean? Like sometimes when I'm working out, I don't know, like sometimes I even like stare at a person and they kind of look at me and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wasn't staring at you. I was staring through you. Like I realized like my gaze was sort of fixed on you, but like I really wasn't even looking at you. So I'm looking at the TVs and I'm laughing, and there's a guy on my left, a woman on my right. And the woman on my right kind of keeps looking at me, and at first I'm sort of like, why is she looking at me? Like, is my nose bleeding or something? And then the guy is kind of looking over at me, and I realize that I'm laughing to what I'm listening to, but I'm looking at this like news station that's talking about like migrants that died, like trying to cross the Rio Grande type thing. Right. But I'm not looking at it. I'm just like, it's just a television, And so, I looked at the woman and she was like getting off the bike and I was like, I couldn't help myself. I'm like, just so you know, I was listening to a funny podcast. Sorry, I was laughing. And she's like, oh, okay. Yeah. And I'm like, what if I hadn't said anything? Was she like honestly thinking I'm just sitting there on the bike, just like laughing, and, at like some like very somber news story? I felt like I needed like to wear, it's like my Burger Noodle 5 t-shirt, like a t-shirt that says like, I'm listening to a funny podcast. Sorry.
I'm a weirdo. I listen to funny, weird podcasts.
Right. Yeah. Or like show someone
Don't
my
mind
iPhone,
me.
like see the album art. This is funny. That's why I'm laughing. So yeah, it was, just one of those things that humans do.
You're in the same room, but you're enjoying different things. And of course, there's going to be laughter or reaction.
Well, and there's a part of me that's like, oh, even if I'm not at the gym, maybe I'm walking down the street or in my car or, whatever. It's like, I could be talking or laughing or singing. And it's like, that's all like pretty standard these days.
Yeah.
If you see someone talking in their car and no one else is in the car, like maybe you're at like a stoplight or whatever, it's like, oh, she's on the phone, or
Exactly.
something like that,
Yes.
and but even so, there are these moments where I'm like, oh, you might have gotten that wrong. I'm not a monster. I'm merely laughing at a funny thing I'm listening to. See the AirPods? They're coming out of my ears. So anyway, yeah, that's the
funny. Gym life, man. Just
jokes write themselves. Heather.
Yeah, they really
jokes
do.
write themselves.
They really do. How's your muscle tone coming along?
It's coming. It's coming along. I'm
Feeling more fit.
I'm trying to. I mean, it's only a week since we talked about this last, but yeah, I feel like, yeah.
I'm excited to get back to it.
I'm happy to have an outlet, to be honest. Having an outlet, a physical outlet is is a it's
It's a
a
good
stress
thing.
reliever. That's
It
for sure.
is. I mean, we've gotten. I've done maybe one or two yoga classes. I haven't done much like cardio, but we've done a lot of walking. We did a little bit of hiking in Mallorca. We went for a short hike yesterday where it was pretty hot and we sweat. And it was actually like uphill. It was good, but I definitely am looking forward to coming back and kind of getting into my routine. I mean, I'm eating so many baked goods, Sarah, like more than huge as you would on vacation in places that
Sure.
make amazing baked goods. But I have to say, last episode I did talk a little bit about how I wasn't really feeling homesick and like why, and I thought about that a little bit more, and I really think it's just this, mind over matter is very powerful, and I did kind of train myself to look. This is a trip of a lifetime. Be in the moment, live in the now, enjoy this, because when you get home you're home and you're back in your routine. So it's not like I hate my home or hate my routine. I'm looking forward to getting home, and there's all these little details about my routine that I will be really happy to sink back into for sure. But I am a little nervous about the re-entry, like the deluge of responsibility. And that only crept in the last couple days just because, I mean, we're flying out tonight, late at like 10 p.m. from New York. And
Right.
we're
This is essentially your this is the final day.
This is the final day. It's midday. We still have a few hours that we're going to kind of go out and explore, but like we have got to pack. It's a nightmare packing situation. We had to buy another suitcase because, we went shopping and gifts for people, whatnot. So it's a whole thing, but we rented a car. We got to bring that back. But, we're landing in the middle of the night. I mean, we land at SFO like at 2 a.m. I mean, it's gonna be a long haul, but I'm mostly nervous about this responsibility that I haven't really had for the last month. Yes, I've done the show successfully. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of us. I thought maybe we'd have some issues doing the show, but we've been doing it every week, and it's great. I'm really glad that we've stuck to it. And but other than that, I've had some phone calls for my business. I've done some work here and there. I've made some decisions. I've had moments of like, okay, this is real life happening on my vacation, which I expected. I didn't expect to be out of pocket. But there's always, especially, I have never been gone this long, going back to life, back to reality, and like the scaries. There's like this like Sunday scaries, end of trip scaries where I tell myself like, oh, I just want to go home. I want 2 weeks of Netflix and chill. I want to take naps. I can't. I am going to have so much work to do and so much to catch up on. Plus, there's so much happening when I go back. I've got this wedding. It's the next week that has two events before the wedding. So it's like 3 full wedding events where I have to like wear a different dress and that kind of thing. I have 4 different sets of visitors happening in the next month. I have to finish my personal taxes. Thankfully, the business taxes are done and submitted, but we got an extension, but I do have to get those done by the end of the month. And this is kind of what I get for going away for a whole month. You can't escape responsibility. And I don't expect
reality
to.
just builds up and waits for you.
It does. Exactly. That's a great way of putting it. I don't expect it to not creep back, but I will say that has been such a nice feeling to not feel like I am getting my apron string getting pulled in all the different directions all the time, every day. Like I said, it'll be good to get back. It'll be good to put that hat back on. But yeah, let us know if you guys have any thoughts on this. I'm sure you do. Email us at hi@havesuchagoodday.com. I know a lot of you are travelers out there. We've been chatting in Discord about your trips, and the air tags and whatnot, which I do really love. I will say we bought some air tags for this trip, and it's been a really great thing to have, especially because we're doing a lot of moving around. So highly recommend those, guys. The only thing I will say is that when sometimes it's a little glitchy because you will have gotten off the plane and then you open up your app and then your luggage is back in the other country you just came from. And it's actually not really back there. It's like somewhere near baggage claim, but it just doesn't totally register. So in some ways it's helpful. In other ways,
That's
it
always
makes
a
you
nice
scared.
feeling where you go,
Yeah.
oh, cool. So I just don't need to wait by this turnstile because it's
Exactly.
not here. But maybe it is, but maybe
It's
it
not a
isn't.
perfect science. It's not a perfect science, but
No. I have
Anywho.
well, first of all, Heather, you have been a real road warrior.
I really
Pat yourself on the back.
Thanks.
I know you've been having tons of fun, but you've
I'm
also
proud of
been
myself.
very committed to doing our show. We haven't missed a beat.
Yep.
And that's not always easy to do on the road at weird times and weird houses with weird Wi-Fi and the whole thing. I've only had my luggage lost once. And I'm a bag checker. Some people go like, I don't check
Are you?
bags.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Because I don't want, like, if I check a bag, then my whole airport experience on both sides is just like, chill. I have, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like maybe a purse or, a not that
it's-
large
it's
bag,
much easier than lugging
hanging
it
over
around.
one shoulder. I just, like you go, maybe get a salad and you just don't have, all this big old thing. And you also don't have to be like, oh, I need to get to the gate because I need to be able to put my overhead baggage, like that kind of like stress thing.
It's stressful,
I mean,
yeah.
some flights you just, it's just going to work out the way it does. Totally depends on the airline. But I just go like, oh, my bag is checked. So like, I'll be the last person on this flight. I don't
Yes.
care. I don't want to be
Absolutely.
on the plane any longer than I have to, kind of thing. And
I feel the
we
same
all,
way.
We all work in different ways, but I did get my luggage lost once, and it was at the end of a very long trip. In fact, it was a year
Oh.
that I was out of the country.
Brutal.
And after that entire year, you have no idea how many planes I was on. That entire year, SFO loses my luggage. I think I had come most recently from Lima, Peru.
Wow.
So, I don't want to, say it was Peru's fault. It was somebody's fault. Luggage was lost, and I like had a real meltdown because I was so very exhausted anyway, And sort of being back in the U.S. was weird, and everything
was
about
really
it was
weird.
just,
A
it was very
year.
dramatic. I had sort of kind of a toddler meltdown, let's call it that, in baggage claim.
You did 12 months. I did 1 month, Sarah. I think
Yeah,
you are the
yeah.
road warrior here.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
I sometimes
You
people
were
go, "Would you
younger.
do it again?" And I go, "I would if I was in my late 20s, which I was at the time." I'm not sure that trip is possible for me today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure the delight I had when, things were kind of difficult, I would find such delight with these days. But that's just, aging. That's
Oh, yeah.
how everybody is. It's like, I also don't want to like stay up for a full moon party, which would have been extremely fun for me, when I was 28.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm like, guys, let's
You'd
go to
be
bed. My
surprised.
headlights don't work.
It's funny. That's that's how I feel when I'm home. I was talking about this yesterday. Like I'm in bed by 9:30. I'm on the couch, so I'm like super comfy and watching a movie before I go to bed, and I had just eaten
Yeah.
dinner. So it's like it's a different lifestyle. But when you're on the road, you'd be surprised at. I mean, obviously the time changed too. Like everything was skewed. We were having like late lunches and late dinners, especially in Europe. Because everything just gets so skewed. So you end up kind of staying up late, and it's
Right.
fine. It feels
Yeah.
fine.
Totally.
So I think it just depends on the energy, the vibe that's going on and everything. Because I think your body sort of adapts to that. But I am looking forward to coming home and getting back into the swing and yeah. So yeah, wish me luck. I will
Good
be
luck.
getting on a plane in a few hours and.
Yeah.
One more time, I got to pack my suitcase.
Oh,
So-
gotta love it. Gotta love it. Gosh, there's nothing I hate more, like
Same.
less,
Same.
than unpacking a suitcase. What is it
Well,
about that? It's like,
unpacking
it's
and packing is the
depressing.
worst. It is.
Yeah. I mean, packing I don't love, but at least it's like there's the momentum of like, I'm about to do something.
Sure.
The
Unpacking, it's like
unpacking
everything's
is
kinda
just like
soiled and
half of everything's
wrinkled
dirty
and
and
damp.
yeah, it just sort of looks like you're like,
Looks all
this is all I have
sad.
to show for anything. Well, listen, before Heather and I get too down in the dumps, because that's not what this show is about.
Not
We
at
want
all.
to remind folks that we are directly supported by our patrons. Thank you to everybody who is a patron of Have Such a Good Day. If you want to find out more about how to become a direct supporter, patreon.com/Have Such a Good Day is where to find out more about that. We've got a fun Discord where not that many of us, because I just looked at our stats recently, but quite a few of you listen to the free show. We'll always offer the show for free. You might hear ads and you might say, I wish there wasn't ads. Patreon is the way to get an ad-free version of the show. And fun perks like our Discord and just sort of a closer chain of
being more connected to us. It's a community. Yes. Like being connected.
Connection was the word I was looking for. I was like, a chain of command. No, a chain of words, something like that.
I'm here for you, Sarah.
Thank you.
We're here for
sometimes,
each other.
I mean, I always say, how is it Thursday again? It's not even Thursday today, but it feels like a Thursday because I'm all discombobulated. But of those who write into us, trust us, we read every email. We don't always read every email on the show because some of it is like sort of personal, so we do try to pick and choose. But Stephen M has written in, and Stephen M, he wrote me recently about just a conversation that we had like a year ago. So Stephen M, I read that email. It was real nice of you. But he likes the show, and he was writing in response to our when you text somebody happy birthday and then you see like the balloons. This is on iOS. He said, sure, this is something that everybody knows about, but iMessage affects those iMessage that show up on the birthday message. If you hold on the send button when you're about to send something, you have other options. Scream is one that Steven either uses or likes.
I always forget about
Celebration.
that, actually.
I'm gonna say something that I shouldn't admit because I'm a tech reporter, but like I've never done this before.
Wow.
And sometimes people will send things to me, or you have like disappearing text, where you have to like wipe your finger over it to see what it says. Mm-hmm. Like I know, like I kind of, when someone sends something to me, I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. But like, I've never even thought to ask, like, how do you do that? I've never done it before. Mm-hmm. It's just like something that I like enjoy and experience, but I don't know how to do it. So thank you, Stephen. And maybe somebody else learned something from that as well.
Thanks, Stephen. Totally. I sort of forget. I mean, it's kind of like how much I always want to do like an audio clip, like send an audio clip to a friend. I forget about it. I know it's a great way to communicate, but I can't remember that it's a thing. And so I just call or text. All the things to remember. It's my brain just gets on overload, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to overload y'all because we're going to wrap up this show. Maybe you feel overloaded, in which case you're thanking us right now. But Heather, it's been fun. Episode
so fun.
201 in the can.
I love
it. And I'm going to go ahead and bounce off to my next job. I know you've got kind of your last day, upstate New York. Live it up on the Hudson.
I'm going to live it up on the Hudson for a few more hours, pack it up, and come on back to Cali. But in the meantime...
Safe travel. Safe travels to you. And
Thank you.
In the meantime...
I will be Heather. I'll be a Cali girl forever. I don't think you can take it out of me.
Nope, can't
Even
do
if
it.
you try.
Can't do it. Don't try to extract it. Doesn't come out that way. I will also be in Cali. Ugh, hate that word. But I will be Sarah, and we will be ourselves next week as well. And on that note, have such a good day.
Peace and love.
Bye.